Welcome to the potential future of StarCraft 2, with the rank 1 Terran in the world in the red, the Frenchman from Team Liquid. It's Clem, facing off against one of the only players who can hope to keep up with him, the Italian stallion, the former Zerg World Champion in the blue. We have Reynor in a best-of-3 Terran versus Zerg as part of a special $1,000 public test realm testing tournament. And before we get started, it'd be incredible. You could smash that like button, or maybe even subscribe. And we kind of the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we? 1,859 likes on this video, on this cast. And I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. As for the first time in these players' careers, they'll be starting with 8 workers apiece. Now, Wings of Liberty, Heart of the Swarm. Oh, almost half of these players' lives ago, if not more. We started with 6 workers, with Legacy of the Void. Just 11 years ago, we moved to 12. 8 is a different number. The implications are significantly more far-reaching than just simply adding another 30 to 45 seconds to the beginning of the game. And for the first time, these players are going to be exploring that idea. Is it good? Is it bad? I'll let you be the judge, and I will also be the judge, and in fact, maybe the jury, and possibly, if needed, executioner. But we'll put a stay on that for now. And you can already see the implications. And that's not even talking about the changes to the units and other mechanics. The nerf buffs to the Ghost, the Slover Lords, just so slow, so ridiculously slow. But, and all these other changes that Jimmy will be putting on the screen, and we'll bring up when they're relevant, because it's quite a list as well. But we can already see the implications, as Reynor is going for a macro pool, an eco pool, a sustainable pool. Something which you would quite rarely see on the current live server, as opposed to the public test realm, which we're on, obviously, at the moment. Making sure he gets his queen and access to Zerglings before a Reaper can come across. I'd say in a defensive stance, not to borrow some terms, but less than 10% of the time do Zergs go for a pool first against Terran, unless they're intending on some sort of shenanigans, some sort of cheese. But because of the mathematical implications on the PTR and the proposed patch, it's risky. The Reaper gets in relatively quickly. It can bounce the queen around if she exists. And if you don't go pool first, she may not for significantly longer than you'd like. And the chances of the Reaper killing drones is significantly higher. So, Reynor already showing the adjustments here. I don't know how many games either player has played. Clem, especially, has been participating in many tournaments on the live patch. I believe these are some of his very first games on the PTR. Reynor clearly already with a few more testing things out. But we will see. Hellions behind so far. The trajectory is similar. The barracks, the factory, and believe it or not, the starport, the Destiny Cloud Fizz build is some sort of fever dream, I believe called it, but the queens will politely yet firmly and as violently as possible rebuff the Reaper, which will still be waiting for its moment to potentially snipe off a drone and deny a third base. And dodges out. The drone does make its way over to the third, and the hatchery's on the way. Back at home. Clem. Well, the Hellions are incrementing out. It does seem like he's kind of taken his standard TVZ style and moved it about 30 seconds into the future. The Reaper into the Hellions, and it looks like a Banshee in Cloak. Of course. As you know, I'm a Banshee evangelist, if you would, and think that not going Banshee, even on the new patch, maybe even more so, is reckless. Or at least risky. Maybe not reckless, but borderline. Borderline. And speaking of, creep spreads just a little bit slower, but it also recedes slower. I think it's around 20% on either side of it, which means it's a little harder to get your creep to its maximum stretch. But at the same time, it recedes slower, allowing you more opportunity to jump any armies that might be trying to take advantage of the creep, or lack thereof. Now, remember, the vision is tied to the creep tumor itself, and oh no, the Zerglings are in the main. He was hiding them, and, well, there's no getting out now. He jumped too deep and too greedily, and the Zerglings were so far back. He's going to try to get something, but no. Doesn't even get far enough to scout if there's a lair on the way. Now, we know there isn't, at least at the start of that sentence. By the end of it, the lair had begun, and Clem just throws away his Hellions. The Queens will politely yet firmly, a lot of that going around, drive away the Banshee, which takes 90%, if not more, of its health damage before Cloak completes. So the little details are lining up for Reynor, and Clem struggling to find his footing. I think, therefore I am. But also, Clem, without as much experience, maybe being a little thrown off by the timings. And then the Zerglings just get into the base, which is certainly not going to help things, though Reynor not being baited too far. Clem clearly looking the other way, but there's still Hellions and a Banshee and plenty of SCVs, and this is restricted lair space! Brenda, oh my. I really just do not like Banshees. Yeah, no one does, but you don't have to make such a big deal of it. Shut up, Susan, it's game 1. Don't make it weird. How do you know that? Sorry. The Banshee chasing down the Queens, and the Overseer is just now on the way. The Queen, with energy for transfuse, will be sniped off. The Frenchman, another revolutionary tactic, but one we've seen before. A tried and true method. And so far, so good. Reynor with 65 drones. If you get past the first, the early harass, the early pressure, which clearly the pool first, into the more conservative Zergling count was intended to do, then, well, arguably Zerg, at least until Ghost, has a stronger position. Most importantly, well, one, mutas are buffed-ish. I wanna. There's a couple changes to mutas, as the Zerglings will chase down their second set of Hellions, despite Clem's fanciful micro. But the mutas now target targets. I know that sounded very dumb. And what did they do before? But now they're much more diligent about hitting units that can hit back. From my understanding, this is from watching Solar stream. Solar might have it wrong, but I trust him to have some idea of how Zerg works. But what that means is if two Marines and a Marauder are sitting next to each other, the Marines are guaranteed to be hit. The Marauder not so much, depending on the angle. Before, the mutas would just bounce to whatever past the first target. Now, it will, to an extent, prioritize units that can shoot back, like Marines, which arguably makes, well, it definitely makes them a better fighting unit, because it's not about the initial attack most of the time. It's about the bounces, the glaives that kind of slice their way through, just like the Marines slice their way through that top right base. But with mutas in production and nothing on the ground to defend, no Baneling speed, no 1-1 upgrades, of which Carapace is now 50-50 cheaper for rank 1, 2, and 3. Another Banshee taken down. Finally, the Queens get their revenge. The mutas, there's turrets on the way. I think Clem figured it out. Either he spotted it, a glimpse of it, but the turrets will be done just in time. Literally a split second before the first mutas come in. But Clem is down 30 supply. Reynor firing on all cylinders now, and he's got the creep almost halfway across the map. Not quite there, but I've always wanted a percentage of map covered in creep, like of land area. It's like 69% creep. Nice job, Zerg. Pretty low hanging. But the mutas, Widowmine tries to lock on, but Clem is cornering them for now. Knocks one out of the sky, or empty space, whatever it is. They flap their wings wherever they are. It's a muscle memory, I guess. Well, Clem picking up some Marines. Looking to completely corner the mutas, of which Reynor's continuing to build. So, Clem, on the other hand, is just sitting back. I would say relaxing, but having mutas threatening your base is not one of the more relaxing things in the game. Not that there are many. Or any, really, I guess. The Thor is here, but it's too thick. Yeah, they're still back there. He's gonna try to... This is happening. And it's still not in range. He's trying to bait the mutas in. But Reynor, quite aware of it. And there's a lot of supply committed to dealing with this. Clem has like 20 Marines in the main. That Thor is still stuck. Help me, step medevac. I'm stuck. Oh no. They just left. Okay. Oh, so I wasn't freaking out. Okay, whatever. Meanwhile, the Thor. Now, 2-2 upgrades are on the way. Those engineering bays are very important, but so is not outright dying to this massive push as Clem is already sprinting back. And Reynor's just rolling through the Lings and Banes, though he didn't target the planetary fortress. Clem actually abandons it at the last second. And he will pick up some of the SCVs and get out, which is probably best case scenario in the grand scheme of things. The Banelings will be chased down, a few of them on the way out. And, well, some damage done, but Reynor does not deny the 4th base. He's just now starting a hive, which is on the later side, considering Clem is now closing in on 200 supply and 2-2 upgrades. He's not there yet, picks up some. Looks like the Thor took some damage during all of that. I'm not sure if it was fighting the Mutas, but they managed to extract themselves from that back corner, as Clem was no longer pinning him there, but the Lings and Banes. The creep not extending past the base, though. Maybe an opportunity. Drags out some Widowmine hits. Another Widowmine. The Mutas cutting off reinforcements, doing quite a good job of it. The Thors are here. He has one in high impact mode, which might be an accident out of reflex. The Banelings. Widowmine thins it out, and the Marines will do the rest. Another Thor. A lot of damage. An opportunity to pick it up, but he doesn't take it because the Mutas are just gutting the base. The Mutas have overrun the turrets. They take down the Widowmines. The Marines are not enough, and Clem is driven back on the ground and knocked out of the sky. He's back to 3 bases, while the Mutas continue to fly. Oh, no. When the medevacs flying right into disaster, they will redirect and be able to boost away a moment later. The Widowmines thinning out even more of the Zerglings. Marines dropping out mid-fight. Banelings trying to roll through. Not enough so far. But the hive is done. And that means Reynor can start his +3 upgrades. His armor upgrade is almost equal with Clem's. Another Widowmine flies up, knocks out some, does a lot of damage to the Terran army as well, but Clem holds the line. The Muta's flying in towards the main. There's no splash damage left, and Reynor making great use of the Mutalisks with their more efficient priority, and just in general, any excuse. Another Thor pops out, possibly the only reliable thing. He's actually going to chase it across the gap. A risky move. Oh, a very hot drop. And a little bit too hot as the Mutas magic box spread it out using either hold position or stop command. And now the medevacs, not terrestrially bound, and that could actually be an issue. The Mutas are back into the main base, and Clem is scrambling back and forth. Right now, Reynor is on 7 bases to Clem's 3. It's not like he has a bunch of bases to retreat or float over. He only has 3 command centers in general. He wasn't able to get any map control. And now, he's losing control of the entire situation. The Widowmines, another pack of Mutas, by the way. The Widowmines doing a lot to thin out the Banelings. Targets down, doesn't quite get the tank. The Banelings are about as inefficient as possible. The Mutas in the main base, though, take down one of the missile turrets. And now the SCVs are vulnerable. As Reynor scrambling back and forth and continuing to get the damage done, Clem, just going to try to counterattack, has given up on dealing with the Mutas directly. Is going to try to find them at home, as the best defense is usually a good offense when it comes to the Mutas. Another wave of Banelings. Marine's about to have +3 attack. He is deep onto the creep. Uses one of those precious scans from one of his very few orbital commands. But the Baneling count is relatively low. Another wave is morphing, dragging in some of the Widowmines. Actually hits more Terran than anything else. The Marauders out in front. The Meat Shield, though, still don't want to eat too many Banelings at once. He has no other tech. It's just Mutas, Lings, and Banes, like it's 2013. The Marines, Marauders, and Mines, and Clem doesn't have the economy to really back this up. He needs to get some damage done. The Mutas swing in, knock out one of the missiles, or Widowmines, rather. I guess they are kind of missiles rather than mines, but I digress. The Banelings trying to roll through. The Mutas taking advantage of the Marines out of position. A Thor underneath. Widowmines do some damage across the bow. Clem's still with a whole lot of supply, but he's running out of Marauders, and he's out of Thors, which means the Banelings are going to get another round. He just finished +3 Carapace. He's caught between a rock and a hard place. There's no more Widow Mines, but he's far enough off the creep. Clem's able to retreat. The reinforcements are continuing to trickle across, but look at the supply, look at the economy. As Reynor holds on to 5-6 comfortable mining bases. The income gap is looking a little concerning at this point. And Clem long distance mining as he floats his main orbital command to his third. And some changelings in the mix here. Yep, right there. That's where you go. There's not even a missile turret. Shh, be quiet. I don't know. Changelings helping the mutas find an opportunity. +2 flyer attack. He actually takes out the missile turret with relative ease. And again, Clem is pinned back. A double drop to the top right. But Reynor, with a casual 1,000 APM, is controlling 2 packs of units. Both of them with mutas. Lings and Banes with the main army. Swinging in towards the third. And he knocks out the mutas, but everything else underneath. There's not enough Marines back at home. Dying by the dozen. Reynor's in the third. Reynor's in the fourth. Reynor's in the natural. And Clem with a desperate counterattack. The double drop to the top right corner. The attack to the south. And Reynor has gutted Clem's economy. But he has to make sure he has a home to come back to. He has no mules he can drop. And he can't replace these units very easily without hatcheries. As, well, one of the few orbital commands is lifted. Clem's income is almost non-existent. But Reynor isn't doing that much better. He lost all but 1 fresh mining base. And calling the third base fresh is really being somewhat generous. Adrenal glands done. He still has 87 drones, but he can't use them. There's just not enough mineral patches and not enough gas to mine. At this point, it's almost wasted supply. 96 to 106 army supply. There's no Ultralisk, no Lurkers, not even any Vipers. It's just Mutas, Lings, and Banes against Marines, Marauders, and Medevacs. The old-fashioned brawl between these units. And Reynor, he still has a massive lead. But it's so hard to actually pin down this army. Though, once you whittle down the economy, at some point, the cost efficiency required is no longer possible. You can't build, well, anything without minerals, without gas. He drops a few mules. Baneling mines would be at an absolute premium here, as there's almost no chance of having scans to spare. But another hatchery will be canceled at the last moment. He doesn't want to get the medevacs cornered, where the mutas can take them out. Just swipes a muta out of the sky. He's got to pick up, and he goes forward. The other army to the south. Reynor is chasing. Medevac slapped out of the sky by the mutas. Trying to buy as much time as possible. Will knock out yet another hatch. There's 37 Marines, 11 Marauders. I don't think there was a cancel on that hatchery, but he's still got 78 drones. Boosting the medevacs across the field. A couple dozen mutas. The Marines in autumn colors. The Zerglings running by. The mutas are back in the main. The Banelings rolling towards the 9 o'clock base. And Reynor just overrunning Clem. 620 average APM. And I think it just keeps going up. Not that Clem's slouching at 500. He has to lift the orbital command lest the Baneling splash damage be a threat to it. Speaking of Banelings, the Marines will retreat back far enough. Reynor, he's not out of the woods yet. He's toppled most of the trees, but there is still the tiny dream. If he's able to knock out the mutas in a moment, all it takes is a split second of distraction, and then march across the map. Clem still has a similar army supply. 17 SCVs. 2 infestors on the way. He's going to try to corner the mutas, but they're in back again. The very expected journey here. The Thor fires off a shot, but there's enough space in the corner. He has to keep... Okay, alright. They will spread out. There's only the 2 orbitals. An Ultralisk cavern begins. A scan. That's Clem. I don't... It's kind of a GG scan there. It's... wondering how bad the situation is. The main base under attack, a drop of doom. The engineering bay taken out. The hive itself, the infestor, throws out a fungal. It's a pretty good one. Widowmine slams into a whole bunch of banes. He'll pick up the marines, drop back out to the side. The muta's still gutting the main base. Clem back to the SCV count he would have started with in the previous patch. Reynor actually losing a lot of drones. The muta's still slicing through all the production, of which Clem... I don't think he'll be building really any more units for the near future. He's supply blocked at 105 over 86. There's nothing back at home. It's a full base trade. And, well, there's still a surprising amount of army. There's a tiny chance this can become a draw, but he still has to deal with the mutas, which, considering Reynor's only lost 27, which is really not that high in a game like this. The mutas are coming back to try to finish things off. The creep is still... it's a bit sparse, but there's more than enough to keep track of the units as they get nearby. 2 ultras on the way, and while they might not have chitinous plating, I don't know if it'll matter. Reynor thinks maybe it's a good idea anyways. And Clem actually fighting to the bitter end. But it does look like an end, as we have yet to see the punctuation mark. But this sentence can only run on for so long. Death. We said we'd put a stay on it. Well, it's time. No burrow, which is honestly nice of Reynor to give him a fighting chance, because a single burrowed bane would be 2 G's worth. Or 2 burrowed banes, I guess. 1 G per bane. Anyways, enough about that. The infestors, the ultras. Clem with 12 workers, 50% more economy than he started. It's the infestors and the ultras. He is ultra dead at this point. He's on the run. A double, a triple, a quadruple stim. He knows what he's doing. That was essentially the opposite of dropping mules. Reynor will overrun and fly through the mutas, the defining characteristic of game number 1. 230 marines dead in just 22 minutes. Maybe a little bit less, because you don't start with marines. So, well, Reynor was able to get a strong economy and then leverage the mutas the whole time. Which is something I haven't seen done against Clem, especially. At least reliably, in quite a bit. Game number 2. Reynor with a commanding performance in game 1. And Clem looking a little lost on dealing with the mutas. Now, I'm not going to bury the lead. I'm going to break more walls than Reynor did. 4, to be exact, and say, of course I want mutas to be good. Like, are mutas so strong? Are you trying to just pretend like mutas aren't good now? I would be ecstatic if mutas were the default choice. And it seems if you have 600-something APM, or your name is Rogue, you can make them work. Now, usually on the live patch, the risk-reward is so obscenely high. It is... You can get plenty of damage done with mutas. And then you look away for 1-2 seconds, and you have no more mutas. On top of that, the struggle is actually fighting ever. You have 20, 30 supply. It's almost like Swarm Host, where only very occasionally can you fight, because the units are so dangerous to you, as previously mentioned. But it's kind of hard to tell. I've played with mutas on the new patch. Not nearly as competent. Much more roguelike APM, even less. I don't know how he does it. He has 350 APM. It feels like more sometimes than Clem or Reynor. But Rogue is a master of working smarter and not harder. Reynor works smart and hard, which, you know, is what we've come to expect from the Italian stallion. Whenever I use mutas, I get some damage done, and then I look away, and then I look back, and suddenly I have 3/4 less mutas. And that's always been the concern, especially with the higher worker start, is the window to get any damage done before there's a comfortable and cost-effective counter. Interesting Clem not building SCVs for at least the build time of 1 or 2 in order to make sure he gets the command center afterwards. So prioritizing getting the command center over getting a couple more SCVs early. I guess orbital commands are worth it, and making sure that you're not at risk. I don't know how much Clem has played. Clearly, Reynor has played a pretty decent amount of the new patch. We saw a pretty specific hatch first with late gas in the last game. This time we're trying the or pool first. This time is hatch first. With Zergling speed, relatively a bit quicker, but still the Reaper shows up and we'll have quite an amount of time with the drones. Queen will finally pop out. He's minimized the losses. It's incredibly annoying, but for the most part, not particularly devastating. He loses a grand total of 1 Zergling and no drones. Just a little bit of anxiety-inducing harassment, but it wouldn't be called harassment if it wasn't. It's kind of in the definition. But I do feel the Zergs especially, through all the fire and fury and the tumultuous builds of the new patch, really doing a lot of math. Now, you might think of Terran as the nerd race, and I certainly do, but Zerg, because of their very arguably peculiar mechanics when it comes to queens and hatcheries and larva production, have a lot of more complicated math to do. Like, is it worth it to go for an inject early? Do you actually have the money to get drones off an inject while still building queens? Because queens still cost 175 minerals. So, budgeting for that, and then maximizing the efficiency of your queen energy. This is a lot of things that sound like they should be in Accounting 101, as opposed to a high-intensity, entertaining video game. But that's just, you know, the experience. And speaking of, the experience of Clem running by with Hellions has obviously traumatized Reynor enough. And stop right there, criminal scum! A great Evo chamber block, and he actually forces the Hellions back into the queens. And yet again, the early run by will be completely shut down, which is quite a weight off the back. It makes it a lot easier and more comfortable to get more drones. Clem was gambling just a bit that there wouldn't be Zerglings with speed quite yet. And even if there weren't enough of them to really matter. Unfortunately, the queens and the reaction time were so good that Clem literally kills 0 drones, which is not very many. And Reynor is going to comfortably drone up his third base. Now we got Banshees with Cloak. We're playing out kind of the similar follow-up yet again. Last game, the Banshees were almost a net negative, as he lost the first one, or took critical damage before Cloak. Didn't get any kills. This time around, Reynor just didn't build spores. Oh no. Ugh. I said pretty much the same thing. Ugh. That's an Italian for GG, by the way. So his spores were late. And the Banshee has Cloak. He does not have a lair on the way. He is going to lose between 5 and 10 drones. And he has to build spores, and it's not going to get easier. So he just leaves the game. Now, was it completely over? Maybe, maybe not. But the amount of damage is about to be so high. No. Right, that's Reynor's thoughts on the matter. He just was not ready at all. So it makes me feel like he just straight up forgot the spore crawlers as opposed to time them out poorly, because they weren't even started until the Banshee showed up. Like, if they were late, that means his timing's off. They just did not exist until the Banshee did, in his mind. So, well, that was a freebie, but I do think for every epic back and forth we get, well, yeah, I'll let you in. We're breaking the fourth wall all day today. You know how many games from top players? You may think, which is good, keep doing that. But you may think that games are all these macro slogs. No. For every 15, 20, 25-minute macro slog, I'm using those in quotes, you watch on this channel or other casters, we've decided not to show a 7 or 8 minute game that just kind of ends, because one or the other pro player does a build that the other isn't ready for. It's just like the latter, sometimes worse sometimes. I know that was a terrible sentence, but games like that are more common than games like Game 1. Maybe not quite as dramatically anticlimactic. I am really saying a lot of words that mean contradictory things here. But that is StarCraft 2. But it is in my best interest, financially and personally, to cast games that are entertaining and not games that are like, and now Clem just wins because Reynor forgot Spore Crawlers. But there are a lot of games where, oh, and now we're not going to use Hero. Max Pax just wins because he blinked into the main and the tank was slightly out of position. Or Reynor just wins because the door was open and the Lings got in. Which could apply to almost literally any match Reynor plays. Those are a huge percentage of StarCraft 2 games. Now, interspersed with these epic macro experiences. But I do feel I'm not going to stop. Okay. Because nobody wants to watch those. But if you think StarCraft 2 is a speed up to 4 bases macro slog every time, that's partially my fault. And I apologize for it, and I won't stop doing it, because you can run a lot more ads on a 4-base macro slog than you can on a 7-minute bop. So, and honestly, they're more entertaining, because you have more units murdering each other, even if it is a little boring in the early game. Now, do I think the new patch does anything to address that? No. But we'll discuss more at the end. I'm having a whole segment on my thoughts and conclusions, and we're going to put that more towards, well, after the last, well, this game, I guess. So, but there was plenty of time. Now, I saw some, what I'm going to say are totally not derogatory comments about casters are just going to have to learn to fill more time, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Consider your time filled, but waiting another 40 seconds for the Reaper to come in and make some drones' lives uncomfortable is something I'm perfectly happy to do. But, it's not going to get me excited. Though the drone's not excited to be murdered, I assume. Though, you know, going back to the 9-to-5 day job of mining minerals all day might not be the most exciting thing. But 2 Reapers and 1 drone killed, on top of keeping control of the whole situation. Then Clem, he got into the main, he saw the gas timing. He's going to know that Zergling speed is on the way, or at least very likely on the way, but still quite a ways off. Sidesteps the Reaper grenades, but there's only 2 Zerglings. Moves some of the drones away. But the Queens. Oh no. Well, Clem, the wings are not enough. No, they are narrowing down the options. He's going to try to go back to the other side, but he spots the Queens. The target fire, not enough. And Clem, he's not going to stay quite in range in order to deny the third, so Reynor takes this opportunity and to grab the third base. Very important. There is a Cloak Banshee on the way. And as the Banshee Evangelist, I have to say, I appreciate 3 games in a row with Clem opting for the Banshee. Though the first game clearly didn't go as well as he hoped. But I attribute that more to the failure of the Hellions than the inefficacy of the Banshee. The Queens. Brenda bounced back. Another one. Wait, can he? No. Really? Almost. And now the Queens are off a creep, which means no transfuse. The micro from Clem. There's Zerglings on the other side. They actually catch some of the Hellions. 1 Queen incinerated. And, well, getting an SCV or 2 is nice. So far, he's gotten none, which is not nice. How does he get none? Oh, I got a couple Hellions, so the Hellions can be repaired. CV's pulled for it. The Banshee. Spore Crawlers are ready. Well, for the most part. As a lair's on the way as well. This time around, I think Clem giving us a better kind of showing of the potential / the pitfalls of this sort of situation. Reynor's at 50 drones against Clem's 44 SCVs. He's got a third command center on the way in the main base. The lair is not done, which means the Cloak Banshees can kind of control some of this fight. Though if they get too close, unfortunately... I can't see shit, Susan! I don't... Shh. Ooh. Yikes. I don't... The Banshees helping to take out some of the queens. There's a whole lot of Zerglings here as well, and he's continuing to build them. This has already cut into the economy pretty dramatically. The Banshees still have energy. He's saving the Hellions for the most... Well, actually every Hellion dies, but the Reapers somehow survive. Yet another queen is taken out by the Frenchman. And, well... The Banshee Hellion just... more than enough to keep control of the situation. The Banshee strayed a little bit too close. The Knitting Needles... not nearly as much, velocity as needed. Oh, no, no, no! The queens! Oh, no. But down goes one. I think a Banshee will beat the queen on her own. It's close. The queen got the first hit. About to have a King Henry of queens in the units lost tab here. And finally, revenge. After 6 queens killed. Infestation Pit is on the way. It looks like Reynor gonna try to rush up to Hive Tech. Unless that's for Swarm Host, in which case it's not. But if it's for Swarm Host, that would be an interesting. Reynor. The Hive begins 7.5 minutes. Barely later than some of the quickest hives you could possibly get on the current live patch. So really sprinting up the tech tree like a bamboo shoot right now. And the Zerglings dart in again. A whole lot of SCVs dying. 10 SCVs dead. Which is pretty important since Reynor is only up by 10 or 12 right now. Reynor does not have a Bane Nest. There's a token attack. A single siege tank. That one tank does actually make a big difference here, though. The 4th base under attack. The Banshee back at home with the reinforcing Marines. He's going to try to give the run around here, but the Marines... Oh, a Fungal! Will inconvenience some of them, but the Zerglings are not enough. The 1-1 upgrades are finishing across the board. Carapace upgrade will finish first, but 1-1 is now done for Clem. Reynor's catching up with the +1 attack of his own. The Hive is nearly complete. Blue Flame is on the way. That can't be right. Blue Flame Hellions would be a curious choice, considering he has no Hellions and no real inclination to build them. I think he meant to get Drilling Claws. What? Wait, does he have a second factory? He's going Hellbat. No, it is right. Blue Flame Hellbats. Interesting. He's up against Mass Zergling with no Banelings. And even if there were Banelings, it wouldn't be that bad. Ultralisks could easily make... wait, what? This Marine looking more like a Changeling than the Changelings. I don't... Ultralisk Cavern, though, is on the way. Almost completed. Clem putting out a lot of pressure. Reynor leaning heavily on getting these Ultras out. Unfortunately, he just got supply blocked the moment the Ultra Cavern finished, which is going to cut into the timing even more. But Clem with Mass Hellbat. No, the Hellbats didn't get any sort of changes in the newest patch. I'm thinking no. And there's no difference in how Zerglings and Banelings do against him. It's just, well, Hellbats are better against Microbial Shroud, technically. Though, the choice to not even bother with Widow Mines is interesting. That is quite an army. Huge Zergling counter. Gets into the natural. And that's going to be a lot of damage for both sides. There are 4 Ultras in production, but they have yet to be delivered. And the army's just tearing through. There's still a Banshee back at home to defend, but 10 drones already dead, and he's essentially annexed 2 bases. He will easily take them out. The reinforcement should clean up the Zerglings. He's stimming his way through. The Ultralisk Cavern is potentially vulnerable. The Ultras are on the field. The Funkles are coating the entire army, and he should really get that checked out. Microbial Shroud will reduce, and I believe the Hellbat counts as range damage. I'm not actually sure, as that's an interesting use case, as Microbial Shroud reduces the range damage taken of units within the Shroud, on either side, by the way, by 50%. So Clem loses 14 SCVs, but Reynor loses his third base. I thought he would also lose the fourth, but he manages to keep it mining. There's another base, though, and there's almost no answer to Liberators. There's only 2 queens. Oh, no. The Venn diagram of freedom. As Clem will get a few kills, and there's really nothing. He's building more queens. He knocks out another hatch. And unfortunately, the rush up to Ultras has left him quite brittle when it comes to dealing with anything else but a head-on attack. Why are the Ultras out here? The world may never know. The Hellbats? Still? Oh, and he's gonna go to the spot that you literally cannot touch. Or, well, it doesn't really matter, as there's no anti-air to deal with this. A counterattack. All Clem has to do is hold. Still, that's 3 Ultras with chitinous plating. It's not the easiest. It's 6 Ultras. He's got a lot of Marauders. The Banshee's still going to work. The Infestors making their way up. And a Fungal. Well, there's not that many units left over here. He's just going to chew his way through. Clem, the Ultralisks. A Fungal. 1 Microbial Shroud will help. More Marauders. The Banshee's still going to work. 22 kills and counting. Microbial Shroud good. But the Ultras are being thinned out. The bases are being destroyed. He's got 1 Ultra in production back at home. Reynor is trundling through into the natural. He's going to chew up some more Marauders. Easily spit out the Marines. But he's running out of units. He's running out of economy. And he's running out of options. 87 to 75 supply. A brutal game. The Infestor auto attack. Well, that's just mean. Chasing down the last Infestor. Somehow the base survives. But the main base, Aspire, is on the way. But it may never see the light of day. As Reynor, unable to recreate the success of the first game. As Clem keeping the pressure on, keeping his feet to the literal fire. 29 to 41 workers. A very tenuous third base. And next to no anti-air means Clem. The Clempire strikes back and takes the series 2-1. Bringing us to our anti-spoiler series of the next series. We'll see if either of them learned. Clem versus Lambo. Yes, we've got another set. Lambo, I think, going to be a lot more particular about his builds. Though, maybe with not quite the level of speed. But a lot of Zerg players actually look to Lambo for how to play Zerg in general. Especially against kind of new and difficult strategies or new patches. So, I'm excited to see another take on it. And Clem now has at least 1 series of top-tier experience. I do strongly believe this was actually his first tournament. Maybe his first day on the new patch. Which, I don't love the timing, since there are 3 to 4. We just finished up another of the major tournaments. Is he gonna engineering bay block? Wait, what? I don't know if you're allowed to do that. It's an 8 Rax from Clem. Just built his first SCV. Is Lambo gonna check? No. This is one of those things that works better the better your opponent is. Because top tier players are not going to randomly send their drone too far or misclick their overlords. The barracks is already inside the house. And there's going to be more than enough time to get a bunker. Now, Clem doesn't know for sure it's a hatch. And this is another... What are you doing? Quick push-up? He does not want to move He's moving as little as possible here. There's a spawning pool on the way. Oh no. The map is dark. And full of Terrans. Oh. Oh no. The bunker will already be complete. Does he wait? The only chance Lambo had to see this is if an overlord was in position at the natural. He's like, Clem is waiting. He does not want to give him a chance to cancel the hatch. That's what's happening right now. The overlord takes about 14 years to get across the map. The overlord's only halfway across the map by the time the Marines are in the bunker. There's no time to cancel. Oh no, it's a disaster. The hatchery, there's no contesting this. There's no chance. He's gonna get into the main. There's nothing to stop the SCV from scouting. Though he didn't see the Roach Warren. Lambo is going... Well, there's no chance of breaking this directly. But a counterattack, maybe. The creep encroaching on the bunker. Clem whipping out a low economy bunker rush. Literally an 8 supply. A proxy 8 racks. There's roaches on the way. He's trying to see if anything is there to clean it up, but just gonna finish it off. The broodlings are gonna go for the SCV. They'll get a quick nibble. And Ravagers immediately. So Clem, back at home. Well, Clem doesn't... He built a single Hellion. He didn't see the Roach Warren, which is a huge deal. And there's no barracks back at home. Did you know a barracks floats way faster than an overlord now? But there's going to be time for maybe one cyclone. Is that enough? He's still just building roaches. The Marines are getting into the main. But will be driven back. Just the fact he's continuing this. And unfortunately for Clem, he's on the side of the map where the tech lab is part of the wall and thus somewhat exposed. The cyclone is still only halfway done. The overlord is taking a long journey in getting here. And Mr. Zergachev, tear down this wall. That won't interrupt the cyclone. He built a bunker, but for who? For whomst? The cyclone pops out. And he will have vision with the barracks. Knocks out one of the Ravagers, but there's a lot more roaches. You could do an engineering bay. The fact he can't build a second... He's building a Viking. Which is... Well, Lambo's at 19 drones, which is usually pretty terrible. But in this particular scenario, he locks on to the Overlord. Did he cancel? The Viking's on the ground. And he's hiding the Widow Mine. But it's just one Cyclone against Mass Roach Ravager. There's nothing here that deals with this. Besides the Cyclone. A clever Widow Mine is helpful. He locks on to a single Ravager. But the boys will be pulled. One Cyclone is not enough. I think Lambo's done it. Clem's cheeky bunker rush. Well, the SCV micro is near perfect. The Viking micro, not so much. He eats a corrosive bile. And without a Banshee... Sorry to sound like a broken record, but this is a broken Terran. Lambo's done it. He kept his cool. Dismantles... Wait, I don't think he ever actually dealt with the bunker. I bet Clem just salvaged it on the other side. He just went straight across and go fucking kill him. As the old adage says. He's doing something weird. Clem cut SCVs to do a proxy racks behind the mineral line. And Lambo cut him down where he stood. As if you do a one base proxy racks, you don't have much to follow it up. So Lambo gets off to a strong start. Again, dropping the first game. This time around, I think Clem, he was feeling it. You get when you get that exact scenario, just you got this little grin behind it, like he doesn't even know. Pop into the bunker literally the second the hatch finishes, like good luck with that. But Lambo had no hesitation and going straight for the Roach Ravager, straight to knocking down Clem's door, and straight to victory. Really was a pretty direct path. Well, there's your example of the 8-worker cheese. A lot of people expected 8-pool to make a comeback. I don't know if a lot of people, but very simply, the logistics don't work out. Terrans will always be able to wall. Protoss have adepts. Now, I do need to bring up a key point, especially in Protoss versus Zerg, which we shouldn't be seeing today, but in the time when we had 6-worker start, things like 8-pool or 6-pool, adepts didn't exist. This is very important because in Legacy of the Void, which we originally started with 12 workers and currently do, this is just the public test room. This isn't guaranteed to join the live server, but adepts are a direct counter to Zerglings on the same tier as Stalkers. Before, you had to get Zealots or Stalkers, back when you dealt with early pool. Adepts can go from defense to offense and are way better against Zerglings. Like, they can go from defense to offense incredibly fast and are way better against Lings, which is simply why early pool is not really a thing against Protoss. Despite, no matter how many workers you cut out, if a Protoss gets a Cyber Core done, it's not going to happen. Now, you can have your arguments about the Warp Gate changes, but we're going to save those probably for the next video, where we're going to be looking at, I think, Protoss versus Terran. TBD. Let me know what you'd like to see. I mean, it might not affect what the video is, but it'd be nice of you to mention it. So, like and subscribe. No proxy racks this time around. 1 racks expand for Clem. We're back on Mothership. We'll see if Lambo gets his Spore Crawlers in a timely fashion. It's going to be a 2 Reaper start. Lambo went for the hatch first, but he's going to have the queens relatively quickly. Backed around the way. Reactored Hellions, the order of the day. And then almost certainly Banshees. Queens getting bounced around. The drone's potentially vulnerable. There's still a lot of time till Zergling speed. It's just rude. Churlish, insubordinate. They've been that way their entire lives. Well, let's make them short, Brenda. I know. Okay, Susan. I didn't know. Sorry. Hive mind. Reapers continuing to dance around. The drone went out into Narnia for a while, but it's made it back through the wardrobe and to the 3rd base. Doing his absolute best to dodge any Reapers early on. The Hellions out, and it's going to be stimmed. I take it back. No Banshees this time. You know my thoughts, but we'll see. As it's a 2 racks factory. Still no starport. It should have started already. Honestly, it should have already started. I don't know why there's no starport. Unless this is like a Hellbat push or Ghosts. Okay, there we are. And he's going to build the reactor. Hand it over. We will see Lambo, Queens, Zerglings. You know the drill. You know the script. Without any sort of early provocation or timing, it is even more all in to go for early aggression. The threat of a Banshee existing already kind of prevents Zerg from being aggressive before lair tech. So unless you can confirm for sure, like last game, it was pretty well confirmed, though I think Clem probably could have gotten a Banshee by the time the Roaches and Ravagers got into the base, but I digress. But there is way too much risk for Lambo to try any sort of counter-aggression. So, that's why we see him just macroing up, though. 43 drones to 39. He loses a couple to the Hellions. Darting in. And the creep spread has been kept at bay. Clem ever the oncologist. The double drop is on the way. And so far the Zerg, little to say. As the Hellions just constantly in the way. Though the Zerglings trying to make sure they're not okay. Doubles back. A curious play. But now it's no longer a shade of gray. The Hellions take it out. Lambo says nay. But the double drop is on the way. Zerglings in production. But he doesn't have that much larva. He literally can't build enough... Oh, no. He's going to have... There's no banelings. A baneling nest is halfway done. The queen's kind of low on energy, and there's not that many. Stim is done for the Marines. Clem has delayed his 1-1 for this. But he's on the edge of the creep. Guns down the Spore Crawler. An Overlord going to be taken out. Another drop loaded up and sent across. Clem starts his 1-1 upgrades. And has a third command center landed on location. Lambo trying to increment out some drones while still having enough lings and potentially banelings to deal with it. I don't know if Clem is using the new load nearby units key. It seems like he's picking them up the old-fashioned way. Though not enough time to go into that at the moment. We don't question Clem, alright? Except when we do, but... Baneling speed still only halfway done. So important. Until it is, Clem's just going to continue dancing around the edges. The Widowmine slams into the Queen. Almost gets 2, and all the medevacs get out. But Lambo now with the unit count to deal with this. He didn't start +1 Carapace, though. Which is just a mistake. He has the resources. Clem keeping the pressure on. Lambo may have, what the 2,000 APM. Simmer down over there. That keyboard is... More likely he's holding down certain keys at a very high repeat rate than he is dancing across them. But, like, just holding down the Zergling key and hoping he gets enough larva. And that is the continuing issue. He has 0 larva, 700 minerals. The queens have been running around. That's the issue with running around with all your queens to deal with stuff like this. Clem has kept such control that the queens have not had a reliable amount of time to inject, and he hasn't been able to get enough hatcheries to spend his money. He needs that Hydralisk Den. He needs something else. He literally can't spend his money with Lings and Banes. Them, on the other hand, is... everything's brought together. Doing quite a good job of keeping the money relatively low. And uh-oh, Lambo supply block the moment. Oh, no. He's got 5 Overlords on the way, but Clem has taken the supply lead in the process. Knocks down another one. And without the Hydras and with the Queen spread so thin, their Widowmines scattered throughout. Another hatch will be taken down. Clem just squeezing the vice here. Lambo struggling to keep up with Clem on all sides of things. The drop heads towards the main base. Another one unloads to the north. 2-2 is on the way. Lambo with just +1 Carapace in production. He has managed to spend the money on the Hydras coming in, but drags him out of position. Let's go to the Clem cam. This is your warning. Your only one. Clem setting up. Micro's back. Target fires some Banes. Gets in position. And he's still doing the old pickup style. Just... to be clear. Once he figures out the hot pickup, the load nearby units, oh, everyone's screwed. Goodbye, Banelings. 1, 2, 3. And another attack down the center, 2-2. He's only halfway done, but he's still got plenty of supply, and he knows he's done a great job of keeping the pressure on. The Hydralisk count is starting to grow, but not so much so he can't contest it directly. The Widowmines trying to minimize the damage, dropping out. And more Widowmines takes out some of the Banes. Target fires the other. And the Hydra's being targeted. Lambo tries to get some of the medevacts, but that means the Hydras stray into range and he loses a few more. And look at the supply. Clem, Lambo, they don't see their opponents, but I'm sure they both know the situation and just the sheer amount of pressure that Lambo is under. Clem continually cutting around the edges. He hasn't yet made it to the heart of the swarm, but he's getting close. Oh no, he runs past, and then the Hydras eat the brunt of the Widow Mines. I don't think he's going to complain too much about that. Another attack. The Hydra count is starting to grow. 13 Hydras, 7 more in production. The 2-2 upgrades. If he can survive, if he gets one pretty good fight. Lambo, well, he plummets to an 8-worker deficit. Clem has a command center, a planetary fortress down the center. A fusion core is on the way alongside 3 more racks. No Ghost Academy, but there's no hint of lurkers on the horizon. He doesn't even have an infestation pit. It's Hydras, Lings, and Banes, and stuck on lair tech for now. Oh, no, my God. And, oh, that's gonna be way too much. The Venn diagram of freedom. There's far too much Terran. The Banelings are not enough. The Hydras are not enough. The Zerglings were never even close to enough. As Clem is tearing through absolutely everything, retargeting the Widow Mine, knocks it out. The Liberators are raining down fire on anything that deigns to get close, and Clem dropping out as soon as he's out of position. The Terrans holding the front line. There's almost nothing behind it. The Marines will turn around and gun them all down, and Clem is all tied up 1-1. Well, Clem just kind of outclassing Lambo there. I think there's no two ways about it. Lambo unable to really get anything started before Clem started carving away at any semblance of an advantage. The inability. So, it's so hard when you're dealing with the medevac drops because you need to pull all the queens to deal with it. And I don't know if he missed any injects. Oh, get out. Get him. Nobody even wants to watch. Clem. They saw Clem pulled the first SCV. Just out of it. We're done. Where are you going? Is this a Reaper proxy? The positioning says yes. Clem 8 supply. He's going... you need a supply depot in order to build a barracks. The reason that requirement is there is because Terrans wouldn't stop proxying barracks in Wings of Liberty. We went through like 4 or 5 different nerfs to proxy racks, so now it's only some of the time. But apparently, 2 out of 3. He's going 8, 8, 8. 8 supply depot, 8 barracks, 8 refinery. Lambo, the second overlord may see it, but he's already committed to the second hatch. He sees the barracks. Though he didn't notice it with his overlord in time. I mean, he didn't pull back the overlord. Yeah, he didn't pull back the overlord in time to keep Clem from realizing that it was spotted. Because obviously flying units have more range, and that overlord is so slow. And also it has a very slow movement speed. Ooh. Yeah, of course you're gonna catch strays when you're that slow. You can't get out of the way. I don't know. Ooh. Sad. Well, Proxy Reaper, he's gonna get in before... Oh my. The pool isn't even done. This is why you can't go hatch first, by the way, anymore. The pool would be done against on the live server. Well, I don't know if he went 12, 12, 12, but well, he's got a spine crawler on the way. There's another one. Now, Lambo defended the first cheese quite well, but this is a bit more finesse-oriented. That spine crawler taking 3 years to finish. Another drone, some more lings. So Lambo, 15 to 13 workers. He does have 2 hatches, but I don't think a queen's gonna stop him. Whips out the grenade. That bunker, just kind of a holding area here. There's the spine crawler on the way, but this time it's not gonna be. Oh, he could. Well, that spine crawler's in range. Pretty sure he can repair through. He's gonna need to get it with the Zerglings or the queens. Well, the spine crawler will eventually deal with it. There's 12 more lings on the way. There's a factory back at home. There's no gas. It's just slow lings. So the bunker on the high ground. The SCV pops out to buy a little bit more time. And there's no speed. He doesn't have gas. It's just a bunch of lings. He can't do anything. The spine crawler gonna try to burrow. You can't bounce the spine, but you can bounce the queens. There's a chance he takes out the spine. Like, this isn't over. Those are Reapers. He's not done. They're gonna pop one in at a time, jump right back down, more. And now he's gonna use the barracks. There's a chance he could trade with the spine crawler. I don't know if it'd be worth it. Another queen is on the way. Clem is expanding. Now, an overlord, he can't lose that overlord, but he will. There's a cyclone on the way. This is nothing like game 1. Oh my. Well, the queen almost taken out. The barracks will do a much better job of scouting than the overlord did. A transfuse on that spine crawler. Are we really going to trade with it? Oh. Oh, what a jump. And he's still going. The Reapers without speed, even on creep. The Zerglings aren't enough. The queens are the only thing. Surprised he didn't just kill that overlord. The cyclone is headed directly across the map. He can take down the spine with the cyclone. And, oh god, it's still going. Lambo's now mining gas. The cyclone, he's got the queens here, but the cyclone, last hit. But now the queens are in position. All he has to do is tap on that spine crawler. I'm surprised he did. Well, he gets into the main. How many lings are there? Not enough. Oh, and the overlord's gonna go down. Oh, it's a disaster. The barracks is distracting the queens. Oh, and he takes out the spine. The A move, the barracks is in the way. He'll finally lose a Reaper, make that 2. But now there's 2 Cyclones, and the queens got distracted by the barracks again. Well, loses another Reaper, but the queen's dead. All the queens are dead. The Frenchman has removed the monarchy. And, well, he did lose the Reapers somewhat lackadaisically. Parts of the barracks go flying, but Lambo is not dead. In fact, he's ahead a little bit on workers. This overlord, both sides just noticed it's still here. Clem will take steps to deal with it. As in, he will shoot it with a cyclone. There are cloaked banshees on the way. A lair, I think you just... This is mutas and prey, right? Like, there's no wall at the natural, but the banshee will help out a lot. If there was no banshee here, I know, I'm the banshee evangelist, but if there was no banshee, these zerglings would clear the natural. With the banshee, it's not nearly as good of a trade. Yeah, these zerglings are more than enough to kill the clones. And there's technically no wall. Speed is done. But the banshee's gonna spot it all. It might stop it before it starts. Yeah, 3 cyclones, but the banshee, and now he's got the wall on the high ground. And the Hellions on the way. Clem has 3 command centers. What? Spire, Mutas, Shire, Baggins. But this is such an uncomfortable position for Zerg. He had to rebuild queens. He has no creep spread besides a few in the main. He has Overseer, but already doing damage to the third. The mutas are a prayer. And mutas do not work well when you have to do damage. They work well when you're already ahead to get more ahead, but trying to get damage done against a player who's already on your doorstep. Well, the muta den isn't even done. Another overlord. That isn't a high ground. That's just a bunch of bushes there. It's a disaster. Another overlord will be picked off the moment it pops up. He's just got a bunch of cyclones and hellions. He's not even going back. 6 overlords on the way, which is a mistake, but a understandable one. The hellions and clones. The banshees are taken out of the sky. Clem is ahead on workers, and he's going marines, by the way, so... Credit to Lambo for, I guess, surviving this far. I thought he would just kill him with the Reapers. But Clem, honestly, the Cyclone was an odd choice. I think just covering for it, but... if this was mech, then maybe. The Cyclone picks off a Muta. The Hellions will double back. There are no queens. So the Hellions, the Mutas have to come back to defend for a moment. And the Marines are already here. Stim is already done. And by that I mean, I'm living in the future. Stim will be done in 10 seconds. The future where you've already liked and subscribed. And the Mutas will fight while they can. This is the best opportunity. And they will win. Clem, severely overestimating the Marines here. As uncombat shield, unstimmed Marines against Mutas and Lynx. He loses 2 medevacs. But Stim is now done. It's still not enough. Losing that first burst of Marines certainly cost him. And, well, can the Mutas just win the game? Clem has 62 SCVs. He can be building missile turrets literally everywhere else. And the Marines... he has to get so much done, but he's getting so much done. This is an inordinate amount of damage. The Muta's stacking up, making it harder to target fire the hurt ones as well. A Widow Mine pops out. Very important to get that. Combat Shield could be targeted. The Mutas are still going to work. It's happening. Combat Shield will be taken out, and that's a huge blow. He doesn't have Baneling speed, but it's not as important if he takes out the siege tanks. Oh my. It's coming together. 1-1 is now done. That's a huge deal. But the Banelings just waddle right through. And he's going to go for the Marine. He has to get the production. He has to get the production. Oh, my. When the Banelings... well, the Marines... the Banelings did okay. Lambo is living on a prayer. That prayer is 14 Mutas. The Marine count finally surpassing it. The 1-1 upgrades and the medevac count are both a huge deal. Clem made some big mistakes by sticking around as the Mutas popped out, trying to fight them on the field. And Lambo... the scan. Clem might even consider GGing if that base was full of drones. If Lambo pulled an Hydra, like a reverse Hydra, and just put like 30 drones at that base. But seeing nothing, there were no drones. He is all in. And Clem's like, oh, okay, yeah. And oh no, Lambo looked away! 2, 3 Mutas dead! 4, 5! Oh no! What a relatable yet devastating mistake. And the majority of his momentum was taken out of the sky in 2 seconds flat. And now, Clem, there's no Baneling speed. The Mutas getting stutter step back. If he takes out enough of them, he can just pick up. The Widow Mine will hit. Also splashes against the medevacs, but he couldn't afford Bane speed. It's still... the Mutas are doing so well. But not well enough. Clem stems the tide. And Lambo almost drags it back with the most effective Mutas I've seen in months. But it's still not enough. Clem with a disgusting new cheese. The 888. And he almost got 8 for it. But hopefully you enjoyed the new Terran versus Zerg. Both Reynor and Lambo putting Clem through his paces. But by the end, he just seems to be a step or two ahead. Thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts. Oh yeah, I said there was going to be some discussion. I hope we can fix the bugs. There's some significant bugs that I don't think factored in huge here today. But a lot of the stuff isn't working perfectly. I don't think the 8-worker start is the be-all, end-all. I'd love to have... My current advocacy and compromise is for a split. 4 or 5 maps out of the 9-map pool with 8 workers, and 4 maps or 5 maps with 12. So we can test out the changes to the units and the changes to the economy without doing all of them at the same time. We've never done that before, but we've also never changed the worker count before. So, now's the time. That is, if one thing I could get out of all the changes, it'd be a compromise on the worker count in the map pool. Because I'm not convinced the 8-worker start makes it more dynamic without breaking things outright. But we'll see. And thank you for watching. If you got the means of motivation, be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free. At least for now. Thank you to our meal tier patrons, Big Cheeky, Devin, Door, Kate, Crazy Mouse, Mario, and Suit. And, well, I hear liking and subscribing is still free. At least for now. I think we already said that, but it's worth saying twice. Make sure to check out this video Jimmy picked out just for you. And otherwise, I hope to see you next time. I hope I made your day at least a little bit better. Good luck, have fun. Thank you for watching. Stay chill.